are experiencing stress that isn't mild and occasional, but that is intense and chronic, what doctors call toxic stress. And toxic stress doesn't help to develop our stress response system. Instead, it debilitates it. It damages it. And that damage gets right under our skin, and it can last a lifetime. We can see its effects on our physical health, on our mental health, and on the development of this crucial set of attention and concentration skills that matter so much in school, from the first day of pre-kindergarten to the last day of graduate school. So there's a lot in this research around stress that can be a little bit daunting or even depressing, but there is some good news in it as well. And that is that there is a kind of secret weapon against toxic stress, an antidote. And that secret weapon is parents. When infants are able to form a close, connected, attuned bond with a parent or another caregiver, what psychologists call a secure attachment, that acts as a kind of insulation against even the worst forms of toxic stress. And one of the ways we know this is from this series of experiments that were done about 12 years ago in Montreal with rats. One of my great fears is that my son is going to grow up and eventually read my book. He's going to realize that most of the time when I was playing with him, I was thinking about rats. But it's true, and it's all because of these experiments done by this neuroscientist at McGill University named Michael Meany. And Meany was like a lot of neuroscientists. He had a whole lab full of rats, all living in these individual plexiglass cages. Each cage would have a mother rat and then a few of her babies, known as pups. And at a certain point, Meany noticed that there was this one particular behavior that certain mother rats did and others didn't do. And he called it licking and grooming. And licking and grooming is not about making your pups look more presentable. It's about soothing them and calming them down when they get stressed out. And if you're a lab rat pup, the thing that stresses you out more than anything else is graduate students. It's those lab assistants who show up once a day or so and pick you up and weigh you or measure you or inject you with something. And then the lab assistants would put the pups back into their cage, and when they do that, the pups would be nervous, trembling, shaking. And it was at this point that certain mother rats would do this soothing ritual called licking and grooming, and others would not. And so Meany wanted to try to figure out what the long-term effect of licking and grooming might be. So he devised this experiment. He divided the mother rats up into two categories. The ones who did a whole lot of licking and grooming he called the high LG mother rats. The ones who didn't do much licking and grooming were the low LG mother rats. Each mother rat raised her pups just for the first week or two of life. And then the scientists separated the pups from their mothers. The pups grew to adulthood, which for a rat is about 3 months. And then the scientists gave these new adult rats a whole series of tests. And the rats who received significant amounts of licking and grooming as pups did better on all kinds of tests. They were braver. They were more curious. They did better at mazes. They were healthier. They lived longer. When the scientists looked at their brains under a microscope, they could see differences in the size and shape of certain parts of their brain, all because of this one small idiosyncratic behavior that certain mother rats did just in the first week or two of life. So I spent a lot of time, especially during my son's first year, trying to figure out what it might mean to be a high LG human parent. I want to assure you I did not lick my son. And if you look at photos of him from that first year, you'll notice my wife and I weren't all that good at grooming him either. But I think there is a human equivalent to licking and grooming. And it's the kind of holding and talking, singing and soothing that to so many parents comes so naturally. So the subtitle of my book talks about the hidden power of character. I think a lot of people hear about this rat research and they wonder, well, what does this possibly have to do with character? But one of the things that I'm trying to do in this book is draw together research from different disciplines that often doesn't get connected. And I think one of the most profound discoveries that this new generation of neuroscientists has made is the connections that they have been able to draw between infant brain chemistry and adult psychology. What they're really telling us is that underneath this complex collection of qualities that we think of as our character, you can often find the mundane and mechanical interaction of specific neurons, the firing of particular neurons in the brains of children. And what the research suggests is that if we want to intervene non-cognitive or this character dimension, there are two times in a child's life that are especially fruitful. One is in early childhood, when, as we know, the brain is especially malleable, especially plastic. But the other is in adolescence, and that is because of this phenomenon called metacognition. And metacognition is a psychological term that just means thinking about thinking. And it is in adolescence when, for the first time, young people are able to really reflect on their own thought processes, to really think deeply about themselves. And if you've spent much time with teenagers recently, you might have noticed they like thinking deeply about themselves a lot. And so what these interventions do is they take advantage of that natural tendency and try to help these young people change their habits, change their patterns, and really change their whole character. And one of the places in my